Black Desert Online is unrecognizable in 2023. Last time I played Black Desert Online, 55 was the soft cap. I think I was killing Sousans. I got 54 before the Sousans came out, and then I killed them, and then I quit the game. Susans? I think they're Sousans. 10 years later.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So I don't know if you know this, but I actually started playing Black Desert Online all the way back in early 2016.
So he did the same shit that I did. Yep, there it is. That's what I did. I played it. Dude, it was so fucking good, man. Oh my God. I remember I met this one guy. I met these two dudes in Black Desert. One of them was he was a prison guard in like Alabama or something like that. And then I met this other guy and he lived in Qatar. And we would have the most fucking insane conversations at like 6 in the morning every single night. It was fucking amazing. I remember this so well.
During the beta testing for the Western release of that version of the game. And let me tell you, I played it a ton. I sunk like a few hundred hours in those first couple of months. Now, since then, it has been one of the many MMOs that I like to
never got them out, by the way,
from
in this
time
game.
to time.
Never got them
jumping
out.
back in to just see what's new. And in the case of BDO, things have changed quite a bit over these past 7 years. While the base of the game had a lot that I really enjoyed.
I remember, like, this is where I hit level 50. Right here.
Between its combat, the life skill system, and the overall sandbox
There's like
nature,
an elite
instead
fat
of
guy.
being sort of
Remember
on rails, guiding you through an experience. It's kind of a game that once you figured it out and got your bearings, lets you just kind of do whatever you want. A lot of times it meant grinding and engaging in the combat.
Well, you grind, and then after you get done grinding, you grind some more.
Since the combat's fun, the grinding in turn is also fun. But anyways, yes, I played a lot of BDO and I've gone back to it over the years as well because there's a lot about it that I really enjoy. However, there were at the same time and have been over the years some major pain points, especially around the monetization and quality of life features that you felt like you had to pay for. Mainly that was the thing, without spending extra.
Yeah, you had to spend money. Like, the thing is, you would buy things that would, like, if you bought an armor set, it would give you 10% more experience. So it's like you're grinding 10 hours a day. Okay, well, that's like 1 hour a day that you're wasting.
The costumes are cosmetic outfits.
They were not
sort
cosmetic.
Of replace the visual appearance of your base gear, but much more so than that is they had associated improvements. Things like extra experience gain, reduction to the death penalty, and even suits.
Yeah, see, like it says right there, gathering +1. There you go. So the skins
that
are
would
just pay to
hide
win.
your nameplate in PvP, which would be a pretty big advantage in those open PvP zones.
I remember that.
So those were some of sort of the biggest, what I would call pain points in the playing experience that really sort of incentivized you to open up the wallet and step into the cash shops. But on top of that, the weight of items that you pick up in the game has seen a reduction in its numbers in a lot of circumstances. So now, not only could you carry more than you could previously, basically, you also no longer have to account for that silver weight. Similarly, with the inventory, many of those items that you're going to be out there grinding for now will be stacking instead of each taking up an individual space in your inventory, which greatly reduces the desire to purchase more inventory space.
Well, it's also just convenient. Like, nobody wants to have to deal with inventory. Like, nobody's having fun searching through a fucking menu, figuring out what items to throw away. It's annoying.
I think it's got some of the best action combat in the genre, and especially with the input method that kind of reminds me, and it's always reminded me a lot of like fighting games. So basically, to play
the gameplay is good. I personally feel like the textures and everything in the game they're a little bit dated at this point. Like, I remember whenever I looked at this game when it came out, I thought it looked a lot better than it does now.
Optimally,
it's still
you'll use
good.
these combinations of inputs with shift, the directional keys, and left and right mouse click instead of just hitting the keybinds. So for example, to use an ability, while you could just hit number 1 on your keyboard, you click that, the ability happens. But instead, there will be these input combinations, like say one example is one of my abilities, I have to hold down shift and W and then left click, and then I can alternate that with different.
I just keybound everything to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Spamming 1 and spamming 2. 2.
You
and why
can't?
would you go through this extra
Well, I was
effort
able to
instead of
back
hitting
then.
1 or 2 to activate a skill, doing these inputs? Well, basically, doing so will add benefits like increasing the damage and reducing the cast time and or resources of your abilities. So if you want to play efficiently and get the most out of your combat, you'll be doing these inputs instead of just hitting keybinds.
Okay.
And combat just feels great, and because the game has a big focus on grinding, you're constantly engaged in that combat. They've also got some rather in-depth and interesting life skill systems, which are based.
Yeah, you never been able to bind them at all? Really? Well, what am I thinking of? Because I remember having all my shit bound. Maybe I'm misremembering it. Some of them, I don't know. You're thinking of skill hotkeys? Fuck, it was like 7 years ago.
There's also all these management systems, that contribution point system that I mentioned earlier. You get these points and you use them to essentially manage towns, like increase the storage and pick your housing plots. You've got workers that you'll go out to harvest resources for you that you'll use for crafting
upgrading
food
the weapon,
and things and buffs
only
and all
getting
that.
better
Connecting
gear,
trading routes between
nothing
these
else,
different towns, and ferrying items from one location to the other. It's also in a seamless, massive open world with no loading screens between the zones. There's very limited fast travel in the game.
Yeah, that's one thing that was actually really interesting about BDO is that whenever I played, at least, there were no flight paths. However, you could auto run. So like you could basically like you could like put your character and be like, go over to there, and your character would just run over to there. And it would go left, right, and to the side and everything like that. And I kind of like that.
Which I always felt has made for some great immersion.
I think that makes sense too, right? I mean, because I liked it in the scope of the world, but like you make the world bigger and bigger and bigger, and then at a certain point you kind of need it, right?
Land of the Morning Light,
area?
the most recent region expansion to the game, first released in Korea back on March 29th, and we just recently got the global release last week on June 14th. Now this opens up an entirely new continent to explore.
Bro, why Koreans like these foxes with a bunch of tails? That's like the third game I've seen that's a Korean game has these a bunch of tails. It's from their culture? Like, what the? It's a myth? Oh, I get it.
Inspired by Korea's last dynastic kingdom and featuring terrain, buildings, and vegetation that will be reminiscent of that era. Along with this, they're also taking a lot of inspiration from many legends and folklore of the time. But one big change with this update is, unlike previous new regions that would add a bunch of new endgame grind spots, this one's not focused on that. Instead, they've added various bosses with this boss rush system. So there's
what a great idea. Thank God. Like, there's been enough farming. How many farming spots does this game have? How many does it need?
9 different new bosses, each with their own mechanics and strategies to take on. Each of these will also have 10.
Like, this actually makes me want to try the game.
10 different diffs. There's also now the Marnie sniper rifle life skill, which adds various improvements to sniper hunting in the game, including dealing damage increased depending on the spot that you hit. So for example, the greatest damage increase comes from a headshot. Probably not surprising, but there you go. And then the quality of reward will depend on your accuracy. In addition to this, some other new stuff includes new quest lines and a fully voice acted story. There will be new workers, materials, and nodes for you to find. All of this also accessible from level 1 if you're a brand new player. If you jump into BDO for the first time, you don't have to level up before you get to check out this new area and this new content. All of that combat, everything about it is just scaled to whatever level you are.
I'll say personally also, I just like how, just like with a lot of the prior content updates, Land of the Morning Light just brings some nice new additions to the game. Getting a brand new play space is always awesome. Obviously, a new place to explore. I think BDO does a good job with its open world, and it's been really cool to go.
That was, I think, the best thing about the game, personally, was the open world. I actually really liked it. I thought it was great.
Around checking out the new region. I like that they're doing something a little different with the focus on boss battles this time around instead of just adding new grinding spots for players. Some of these fights are really neat as well. I also really enjoy the gathering mechanics. I know it's simple stuff, but how BDO does life skills, I have always enjoyed. Sort of gamifying the process of gathering and crafting just makes it a bit more engaging. All in all, this update just seems like another great addition to the game.
So Land of the Morning Light, the latest update, as mentioned, is now available.
You know, I never got my Awakening sword as a warrior. I never got it. I quit the game before it came out. You got it at 56, right? 56 or 57? I never got it. Fuck, man.
globally. It is free for anyone who owns BDO, or if you pick up BDO, you buy the base version of the game. Land of the Morning Light is just going to be available for you for free as well. So check it out. You can go ahead and take a look at the link in the description below. BDO is just a game that it's one of the many MMOs that I'll come back to on a regular basis. And yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping in, and maybe you'll see another follow-up video.